The third type of descriptive research is content analysis, and it is a technique which is used to systematically make an objective and quantitative description of any content of communication. Now, let's take an example of a teacher who is communicating in a classroom. It is nothing but a piece of communication which includes verbal and non-verbal symbols. And if, as a researcher, I'm interested in how many questions the teacher raised in the class, what level of question was raised by the teacher in the class, what kind of feedback was provided by the teacher to the students who responded to the question, I need to analyze the content of communication and then convert this qualitative piece of communication to quantified information. The number of questions posed, the level of question, whether it was remembering, how many questions pertain to remembering, understanding, application, and so on. And I'm also interested in quantifying the qualitative piece into the nature of feedback. That means whether the teacher provided correct feedback, whether it was relevant feedback which was provided. So I am trying to analyze the content of communication and trying to convert that qualitative content into quantitative information. Content analysis can be taken in number of cases as far as teaching learning is concerned, and it passes through number of steps. The very first step is to state the purpose of the study. Next is to raise research questions, or you can say state or formulate the research questions to which the researcher would like to find an answer to. Then select the sample for this study. And next is to develop the classification system for analysis and analyze the data and interpret the result. For example, the question papers are set by the teachers for formative evaluation, for summative evaluation, also for mid-semester or maybe class test. And let's take an example. You are interested in analyzing the question paper. So the first step is to state the purpose of the study. So the purpose of the study can be to determine the quality of question papers set by teachers of technical institutions. And next step is to write the research questions. This is the overall purpose. So once you say quality of question papers, you are primarily concerned with the validity of the question papers, and you are also concerned with the marking schemes, the instructions which have been provided. So some of the research questions could be generated, and these may include how adequate is the representation of content of the course in question paper. So the coverage of syllabus in the question paper. Then what weightages have been assigned to various levels of learning outcomes in cognitive domain. So we are all clear that there are 6 different levels of questions which can go, because learning outcomes fall in 6 different levels, that is remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So you are interested in finding out how many questions assess remembering level learning outcomes and so on. Likewise, maybe you are concerned with the percentage of questions at various difficulty levels. How many easy questions, how many moderate questions, difficult questions, and how many difficult questions have been posed by the paper setter. And in addition, you are also concerned with whether the questions which have been framed, they are correctly framed, and the percentage of repetition of questions in a question paper or maybe over the years. And likewise, you can frame more research questions when you are trying to analyze the question papers. The third step in content analysis is to sample the content. Here you are concerned with taking decision with respect to how many question papers need to be analyzed. So are you going to have all the disciplines, all the subjects in your discipline? You are going to include the question paper for the last 5 years, last 10 years. All these decisions need to be taken by the researcher. The next step is to develop the classification system. Once you have collected the sample for the study, then you need to find out how you are going to classify the question papers which you have collected. So this will be directly coming from the objectives or the research questions which you have stated. So coverage of content may be one, level of abilities assessed may be another, difficulty level of the questions can be another classification, correct framing of the questions, grammatical correctness of the questions, and appropriate mark allocation, and so on. So this is how you are going to decide about the categories of classification. And now you take up the question paper and try to carry out the analysis with respect to the classification system. So the next step in content analysis research is to analyze the data and interpret the findings. And before that is done, because again, one researcher, if it is involved, maybe you don't require to ensure high rate inter-rater reliability. But if more than one person is involved in analyzing the question papers, then you need to ensure high degree of inter-rater reliability so as to ensure, as per the classification, the team is able to analyze the question paper and you are able to arrive at the correct conclusions. And once you have analyzed the question papers, then comes the interpreting the findings, and here you are primarily going in for the descriptive statistics, where you are trying to determine the percentage of questions which have been correctly framed, the percentage of questions which have been repeated over the years, or you are going by how adequately the content of the subject has been represented in terms of percentage of topics which find place in the question paper. So in nutshell, we can say that content analysis research can be carried out with respect to the instructional processes, with respect to the media which is being integrated by the teacher in the classroom situation, by the evaluation tools which are being used. Their analysis can be done, or the assignment submitted by the student, the kind of problem solving which is done by the student in the class. This would require content analysis research.